everybody, I'm Mark, this is Bob from Personal Combat Defense Systems, and this is the fourth video in the Self-Defense Weapon series. This video is going to be on impact weapons. An impact weapon is basically just something that you hit the bad guy with. It's going to be more effective and do more damage, and also be safer than using your hand or your fist or your elbow or your knee or your foot or your head. And this is good. I can't help but tell you scientifically how exactly it is that they work and how they do more damage, and they do it in three ways. First way is that it takes the force and it focuses it to a smaller point, and it does more damage on that smaller point. So if I throw a strike with the hammer fist and I hit with the bottom of the hand, all the force is going to be distributed through the area of the bottom of my hand. It's going to be spread out. If I hit with the Kubaton, and all that force then is going to go to the point of the Kubaton, it's all going to be focused in one small area and going to do more damage. So the second way is to actually increase the force. Now force is mass times acceleration. Acceleration is a whole nother story. That has more to do with us and our technique than it does the actual impact weapon. But as far as the mass goes, that's what the impact weapon is going to increase. If we weigh our hand, we realize it really doesn't weigh that much, and if we're doing an open palm strike or a closed fist strike, that's the mass that you're putting into the formula. If you take this tactical flashlight, which has a little bit of weight to it, and you put it in your hand, you're just added a lot of mass. You might even have doubled the mass, and at that point you multiply that times acceleration and you have a lot more force. Third way is an impact weapon is typically going to have a higher density. Density is mass divided by volume, so it's basically how much mass that you have crammed into a certain amount of space. When you do that to a large degree, you have an item that is harder. Now another huge benefit of using an impact weapon, on top of it doing way more damage to the bad guy, is the fact that it also protects us. The human hand alone has 27 bones, 27 joints, 34 muscles, and over 100 ligaments and tendons. I have a funny feeling that the human hand was not really designed for smashing people. Now yes, in self-defense there are definitely ways that we strike to make ourselves a little bit more safe, to try to minimize the damage to ourselves, but the impact weapon is going to do this way more than hitting with an open palm first to fist is really going to do. Now in a lot of traditional martial arts there are ways to condition the hands and the body to take a little bit more impact, sometimes a lot more impact, and Kung Fu, they have the iron palm training. In Japanese arts like karate, you have the Makawara training that goes back to the roots in Okinawa. But the fact is those take years and years and years and years to develop those kind of strengths, and most of us really aren't interested in that. I for one have done quite a bit of Makawara training over the years, but I've kept it minimal, and I've definitely noticed an improvement in the type of damage that I can take to my hand, the type of force I should say that my hands can put out without getting injury. But it's not enough to hit a human skull as hard as I can, not even close. If I do that, I'm going to get injured. I want to do day-to-day things, and I don't want to have a handful of arthritis at the age of 50. This is pretty common with the older karate practitioners, whether they want to admit it or not. A lot of people don't realize this, but in MMA, the MMA fighters don't wear gloves to protect the other person. They wear gloves to protect their own hands, and what this does is enables them to keep fighting, keep the show going. So the first category of these weapons is going to be improv weapons. An improv weapon is just what it sounds like. It's just kind of like whatever's laying around. Classically in the bar fight scenes, people always grab the pool stick or they grab the beer bottle. Not very often do they pick up a cue ball and hit somebody with it, but you can definitely do that. You can pick up a bar stool, which by the way is really good to defend against knife attacks. That's another topic. Stay focused. This coffee mug is an impact weapon. It's whatever's laying around. Maybe the fight went to the ground, you're losing, you see a rock, you pick it up, you use it. You're walking, you see a broom, there's a stick, you pick it up, you use it. So it's going to be whatever is within reach. It's going to help you. Now there's definitely things in a car a lot of the times that can be used as an improv weapon. A tire iron. The type of work I do, I have a hammer in my car. There's people that actually like golf. They may have golf clubs or something like that in their car. But again, from the first video, just remember, if you stop the car, get out of the car, or you choose to take an improvised weapon out of your vehicle when you have the opportunity to drive away, that's not self-defense, that's engaging in a fight. So just be aware of that. two common improvised weapons that I see all the time on the internet that people talk about is keys and rings. Now let's start with rings. This ring is an actual ring designed for self-defense, so I'm going to put it on. Now, we want to train with the open palm for self-defense. It's better to protect our hands, but let's just say that we're going to hit with a closed fist anyway. Maybe it's just habit. I know I do it. If you throw the punch kind of Bruce Lee style, you're probably going to hit with these three knuckles. If you throw it this way, you're going to hit with these two knuckles. Everybody's hand is different, but the idea is that you're staying in line with the rest of your arm and everything is stacked nicely. When you put the ring on, no matter what knuckles you hit with, now you're hitting with your finger. If it sticks out far enough past your knuckles, you're hitting with your finger, and all that force, like we talked about at the beginning, is going to be focused into that small area, and there's a very good chance that you're going to break your finger. Now, other people have said take the ring and turn it around. Now, when you hit with an open palm, a lot of people think like, palm, but you're really hitting with the palm heel. If I put my hand this way and I were to hit here, my hand is going to bend back. I'm going to get that backwards motion. So really, when I hit with an open palm, I'm trying to hit here, because as you can see, this is in line with the rest of my arm, and that's going to help with the impact. So that really doesn't do any good there. Now let's just say that you're going to do a hook-like slap where you're coming around and you're cracking somebody in the jaw. Typically with that type of slap, you want to aim underneath the ear. You're still hitting the jaw. You can also hit the ear. Fights are dynamic, people move. The carotid's right here. If you hit that, you can stun them a bit. And the fact is this ring making contact as well as a byproduct, it's not really effective. So if I just kind of cracking myself here, I don't even feel the ring hitting. I feel my palm heel hitting my jaw. So basically what I'm trying to say is if you put it this way, it's dangerous. And if you put it this way, it's absolutely worthless and meaningless, and it's not even worth the thought process of turning the ring around. And the other thing I see a lot is using keys in between your knuckles. Now, thankfully, people realize this is a stupid idea, and there's probably a lot more people speaking out against it than there are people encouraging it. But just in case you came across the wrong advice, let me clear it up. What they expect for you to do, assuming that you have time, which in a violent situation you really don't have time, is to take the keys and stick them in between your knuckles like this. So now you have these this Wolverine hand, right? But the thing is, any kind of impact, these things are just going to bend and move around, and you're going to get cut, and you're going to hit, and they're going to fold in. So I got the keys here, sticking them aside. Kind of hurt a little bit, but now they're all bent in. That's worthless. You're just going to cut up your hand. You may cause minimal damage to the person. More than likely, you're just going to upset them, you're going to aggravate them, and they're going to become more aggressive towards you. If you don't have anything else and you need to use a key, if you want to use a key rather than using your open hand, what you want to do is you want to take the key and actually hold it the same way you would putting it into a door. You got a nice grip on the rest of the keys, and you're basically using it like a shiv, just a small puncture tool. And with this, you're going to be able to do a little bit more damage. I'd still be cautious going full force. You gotta make sure the keys are in your hand real tight. But this is going to be a better option, and it's going to actually do more damage than it would doing key knuckles. The next thing I want to look at is brass knuckles. These are illegal in Pennsylvania. These are illegal in most states. But if they're legal in your state, or you choose to ignore the law, which I do not recommend, just know that when you're using these, all of that force from your strike is going to go through here and heel. So if you're going to use those, which I don't recommend, just be aware of that, and you definitely have that impact going back in your hand. So just like the brass knuckles, we have these cat knuckles. Now the difference between these, at least in the state of Pennsylvania, is the law states no metal knuckles. That's what makes brass knuckles illegal. These aren't metal, these are plastic, so you're basically carrying them on a loophole. With the Pennsylvania self-defense weapon laws being so gray, admitted by the police, it is going to be left up to them and up to the judge, possibly the jury, to go ahead and truly judge your situation. The use of force expert and the other officer, the lieutenant, both said though that most of the time an officer is going to see those on a woman's keychain. As long as everything adds up and makes sense, and they're just going to ignore it. But this is the same idea as the brass knuckles. You want them to fit over these first two fingers if possible. You can have your keys dangling there, and it gives you this really nasty way to strike. This is a little more of a puncture type of impact than the brass knuckles. You're going to do a lot of damage. Make sure if you do use these that you are definitely justified to use that level of force. The Kubaton. There's 3 reasons I really like the Kubaton as a self-defense weapon. Number one, not only does it have high density, so it's good for striking, but it has this tip, so it's actually going to puncture and do a lot more damage because of the tip. It's pretty sharp. I will say that when you get it, you want to slam it into a 2x4 or something and get a feel for the fact that if you hit full force, there's a good possibility it's going to slide through your hand a little bit. So you just want to get used to that feeling. If it causes you discomfort, maybe don't hit it 100%. You're still going to do a lot of damage with the tip. The second reason I like it is because it's a keychain, and one of the big issues with carrying a weapon of any type is, how much access do you have to it, and how noticeable is it that you have it. With this being a keychain and it coming in a lot of different colors, you could be walking through the parking lot, just, mind your own business with your keys in your hand, and the person might not even notice that what's in your hand is a weapon. So going to your car in a parking lot or going out at night, it's in your hand already. There's absolutely no reaching for a weapon, there's no going for a weapon, there's no digging through your purse or digging in your pockets. It's in your hand and it's ready to go. Now, the third reason that I like this weapon is because outside of just striking, it is great for breaking grips. A video I did a while back, I did talk about the difference between men and women's self-defense and how for the most part there really is no difference. But what does tend to vary are the types of attacks that happen to women versus the types of attacks that happen to men. And with women, there's a lot of grabbing, there's a lot of pulling of clothes, hair grabs. There's these control factors, bear hugs, picking somebody up and trying to carry them away. Just the fact that a kidnapper is more likely to try to snag a kid when they're with their mom versus when they're with their dad. So you're dealing with holds, and because the Kubaton has this tip, and holds are typically hard to get out of, the Kubaton is going to help because you can attack the hand that's doing the hold, and that helps to release the hold. Otherwise, it can be very difficult with some of them. So this is Regina. I'm 60 pounds heavier than her, and I'm dragging her with a arms pinned bear hug to the other side of the room. Not too hard. That is a hard escape to get out of. But this time, she's got a Kubaton in her hand. She digs into my grips, and I let go because it hurts. Admittedly, with this hair grab, Regina would be attacking me. I'm usually wearing protective gear, so she's being nice, so she's not throwing knees or elbows into me, which discourages my grip. But either way, I have the grip. It's hard to get rid of that because the hair is easy to grab. But this time, she's got the Kubaton, and she just sinks it right into my hand. I gotta let go. This wrist lock here, this is not a great self-defense technique. It's a bit flashy. It's a lot easier to do on a willing opponent, on a training partner, somebody who's not resisting that much. I mean, it can work on somebody if you catch them by surprise and you do it very quickly and aggressively. But we train it because once you put the Kubaton in the hand and you rotate and push that Kubaton into the wrist lock becomes way more effective. So here she has what some people call a side clinch, some people call it a cross collar tie with an underhook, and she's corkscrewing her movements to try to bring me down, just giving her a hard time, resisting, grabbing the leg. Here she is with the Kubaton in her hand. I'm not staying up, that thing hurts. Here I take the mount position. Regina's pretty good on the ground, so I'm actually using some jiu-jitsu leverage. Typically I try to mimic an untrained big and bad guy, but in order to stay on top, I do have to really drop my weight down on her. Use some techniques to hold her there, and couldn't help it, went for the triangle. But here, she's a Kubaton in her right hand, and she's digging it into my ribs, and I want to go the direction that thing is pointing, and that is how quick she dealt with me with the Kubaton in her hand. So I know that there's definitely a lot of negative opinions out there about the Kubaton, but being on the other end of it and offering some resistance to people and feeling the difference from a bad guy's perspective, I gotta tell you, it definitely makes a difference. So yes, the Kubaton I think is a great self-defense option, especially for women and for anybody who's willing to actually take it and carry it on their keychain. Now there's also this type of Kubaton right here. Definitely a little bit more dangerous for the other person. You take your middle finger and slip it right through there. So you have metal knuckles. This Kubaton is from ninjutsu, the Japanese art of the ninja. So it's kind of like an assassin in the night type of thing. Super cool, super effective, but the problem I see with it is you have metal coming through the knuckles, and in the state of Pennsylvania it specifically says no metal knuckles, and to me I interpret this as metal knuckles. I don't carry these, and I don't suggest people carry them, at least in the state of Pennsylvania. So as cool and effective as they are, I would have to say stay away from it. So the next thing works just like the Kubaton, but it comes in the form of a tactical pen. I think these are pretty cool. This one has a glass breaker on the other side that you don't write with, so you can strike from different directions. The only downside about them, I'd say, is the fact that they look tactical. So if somebody is observant in any way, shape, or form, they're going to look and say, that's a tactical pen, and if I do something to them, that is most likely what they're going to use to fight back. So you are kind of showing your hand a bit with that. People have said that they got these through airports and TSA didn't mind. Hey, whatever, if you got to pass TSA, more power to you, I guess. They do come with ink refills, so it's not like you're spending $20-30 on something you're going to have to throw away when it runs out of ink. This one actually unscrews, and here's the pen part of it. And in the back here we have this little flashlight, so pretty cool. It's just an option if you're into that type of thing. You can get a tactical pen. You can definitely just use a regular pen, and this pen right here is made out of metal. There's nothing special about it. It wasn't super expensive. It's just slightly decorative, and it's metal and it's durable. So I'm going to be able to have this in my hand, and it's going to do the exact same job as the Kubaton and the tactical pen. I have a striking surface. I can have a tip to break grips, and when I think about school-age kids and dealing with them and explaining to them about strangers and kidnapping and all these different things, if you feel that your child is safe to know the information about using a Kubaton or a pen to break grips of someone who's trying to pick them up and take them away somewhere, it's not a bad thing to share with them, because a regular pen and a regular pencil is totally allowed inside of the public school system, where if they try to go in there with a tactical pen, that's not gonna float. Okay, so the next thing is flashlights, and I love flashlights as a self-defense weapon. Not only is it going to be used to strike the person, but if the flashlight is bright enough, you're going to blind them first. And when I say bright enough, I'm saying 750 to 1,000 lumens minimum. Lumens is a measurement of light. A lot of people say 500 will get you by, but I like to stay on the higher end of that. You're getting so bright that it's actually too bright to look for something in a lot of places, because it's just so much light, but this is what you want to make sure that you're blinding somebody. When you buy cheaper flashlights off eBay, Amazon, even going into Walmart, it can seem like the lumens ratings are false. I think that maybe sometimes they are, but it also could be the case that the flashlight takes that light, and rather than concentrating it into one area, it's spreading it out. So all that light spread out can add up to a large amount of lumens, but it doesn't quite have that blinding effect. So a lot of times, going with a flashlight that is intended for self-defense purposes is going to be better off. But see what's out there, see what you can get, test it out, and experiment with it. Another thing that you're definitely going to want is, on this flashlight right here, I have a thumb switch to turn it on. Okay. On this flash right here, I have a thumb switch. I get it, they're both thumb switches, but this one you have to push here, so you can see the difference. This one's back here, this one's up here. So the reason I want this one is because it puts me in a position to blind and strike. This one I'm going to blind, Then I have to turn it around to strike the way I've been practicing, and now I'm blinding myself with it. That's not the motion that I want, and it's not secured in my hand. I don't have a good grip on it, so I definitely want that button to be on the back here. Another thing that I want to be mindful of is some of these flashlights, let me just face this way, they zoom. They'll slide like this. See how this goes up and down? And that slide zooms it. The problem with this is if you're holding the flashlight in your hand and you're ready to strike with it, and this thing right here closes in your hand right on impact, ah man, that's really going to pinch. That's going to hurt. You know, you don't want that. That's not a good feature to have on a flashlight you intend to use for self-defense. You know, I have this one. I keep it by the front door. You know, that way I can see out in the yard. I can zoom real wide. I can zoom real narrow. But it's the same thing. If I hit somebody with this and I smack it real hard, that's going to close. That's going to hurt. I don't want that. I'm trying to minimize the damage to myself and to my body. It doesn't serve its purpose well. This flashlight might get me by. It's not the brightest. You know, none of these I've showed you so far are really that bright. But the problem with this one is that it runs off regular batteries. I would like it to be rechargeable because I know these batteries are going to die and I'm going to forget about it. I would rather just have it plugged into my car, into the cigarette lighter, the USB ports, or plugged in at my house where it's just always charging and always ready to go. I don't want to have to worry about it not working when I need it. So this one's not going to be something I rely on for self-defense either. This one is pretty cool because it has these super gnarly beveled edges on the front. But the problem is this one's not even rated in lumens, it's rated in watts. It's 3 watts, and it is like the wimpiest flashlight ever. So, I mean, it's great for a striking tool, but this certainly isn't going to blind anybody in a very, very, very dark area. It's going to be bright enough to know who somebody is. But like I said, it's not going to blind them. It's probably not even going to phase them. I can see everything just fine. So this flashlight's getting up there in the brightness a little bit. This is 300 lumens right here. It's the brightest one that I've showed you yet, but this still isn't going to be bright enough to blind somebody and for self-defense purposes. It is made really well. I do like to say though, if you get a flashlight that feels cheap, that's the only thing wrong with it. I mean, how many times are you really attacked anyway? So if you think about it as like a disposable self-defense flashlight, there's nothing wrong with that. The flashlight doesn't have to be super hefty, although the weight does help. So this one is metal. It's a little bit heavy duty, but the problem is when I put it in my hand and I close my hand, the light gets buried. And when I strike with it, when I have my thumb and I strike, I'm not hitting with the flashlight. I'm actually hitting with my hand. So this one's just not big enough. Ideally, you want something like this. This runs you maybe just under $100. I can't remember, but this is the Olight Warrior Mini. This puts out, I want to say, 12 to 1500 lumens. You can tell right here, this is super bright. So you blind them and then you attack. This has a really sharp beveled edge on the front, not as much as the other one, but it's definitely there. This clip can go in your pocket 2 ways, so you can put it in like that or you can put it in like that, depending on how you like to draw the flashlight. It's got the thumb switch on the back. All in all, this is a great flashlight. It's got some weight, it's got some mass. We talked about at the beginning, mass times acceleration. It's going to increase your force. It's very comfortable in my hand, and it's going to do a lot of damage. You know, there's also there is a button here on the front. You have like these different modes. You can do you know, reading light mode and just different stuff, but really full blast is super bright. Moving up from the Warrior Mini, we have a Warrior Pro M2R. This thing is big, it's heavy, it's nasty, it's going to do a lot of damage. It's basically the big version of the Mini. These beveled edges right here are incredibly brutal. I mean, just getting hit with that would be absolutely awful. It puts out 1800 lumens, and I can shine this thing down the street. I can see all the way down the alleyway with this. It's a phenomenal flashlight, also right around $100. I highly recommend the Olight Warrior flashlights. You know, there's other brands out there with bigger names that are tactical flashlights, and I've seen them, I've had them. They're not as good. I feel like these are made better. They're heavier duty. They're brighter. They're just better. So I'm not going to say any of the big brand names, but I feel like these are superior to them. And the way that it charges is pretty cool too. You have this USB cord, then you have this disc right here. It's a magnet, and the way you plug the flashlight in is a magnet. Boom, and that's it. So as soon as that magnet slaps on there, your flashlight's charging, you're good to go. Another impact weapon I wanted to touch upon quickly. I keep seeing this pop up on eBay and different places like that. Maybe it just knows I'm a self-defense guy, so they're like, oh, hey, you want to buy this? And I did buy it. So this is the monkey's paw, and it's basically just paracord. And inside here in this really fancy wrap is a stainless steel ball. It's definitely got some weight to it. If you crack somebody with this, it's definitely going to do some damage. Now you have to train with this though, I'm going to be honest with you. The way this works is very similar to nunchucks, and the argument with people using nunchucks is that when you hit a target with it, it bounces back. You see how it hit my arm? It bounces back and it's going to hit you. And I'm holding it in a way that it hits the meat on my arm, but if this hits the bone on my wrist, it's really going to stink. What you need to do is the same thing you would do with nunchucks, and it's not really, you need to be committed, okay? And that's that you're going to follow through with the strike. So if I hit like this, I stop, it swings around. But if I actually follow through, it doesn't swing back as much, and I go through the target. This takes some training. I think it's more of a novelty item. You know, if you're like a prepper mindset kind of person, you know, it's always nice to have like paracord handy. But yeah, I really don't recommend this at all. I just wanted to touch on it in case maybe people saw it and they were like, what's that? Well, that seems cool. That seems like a really great idea. I could put my keys on there and I could swing this around, and it'll be great. But I don't know. Gotta train, and and the last weapon I wanted to talk about is the Expandable Baton. I really like the Expandable Baton, but at the same time, it's probably just because I'm a collie guy. So being that I'm training with sticks, the Expandable Baton is pretty awesome. Get your strikes in, and it's a cool weapon. It definitely does a lot of damage, but it's illegal in Pennsylvania because it does not serve another lawful purpose. I mean, this is for hitting people. One of the things that I'm a little disappointed about is that as a learning collie, there's a lot of grappling you can do with a stick and with an Expandable Baton. Really, this is a way to subdue and control somebody without smashing their face in. And I think it's a shame that I couldn't carry something like this. So it is a bit of a bummer that it's illegal in Pennsylvania, but maybe it's legal in your state, and if it is, I highly suggest you learn to do some control tactics with it, some grappling with it, and not just crushing somebody's face with it, although you may need to do that. Alright, so that was it with impact weapons. I hope it was helpful, hope it gave you some things to think about and enough information to help you decide what's going to be the best self-defense weapon for you. If you haven't seen them, there are 3 videos that preceded this one, and we talk about some other self-defense options which are also really good things to think about. So I will see you in the next video, and thanks for checking this out, and as usual, stay safe out there.